Now, look, okay, so the Big Bang isn't just some explosion in a vacuum. That's a low-resolution way of looking at it. An explosion happens within a room, but there was no room. The Big Bang was the expansion of space itself. It was the sudden, violent emergence of limit. And before that moment, you had the unmanifested, total potential. But potential isn't useful until it's bounded. This expansion was the birth of the first rules, the constants of physics, the constraints that allow the drama of being to take place. And you have to realize the sheer mathematical audacity of that beginning. If the expansion of the universe, that initial stretching of the fabric of reality, had been different by even a fraction, and I mean a fraction so small it's like one part, in a million, billion, billion, we wouldn't be here. And if it were a fraction too fast, matter would have flown apart into a cold void. A fraction too slow, and the whole thing would have collapsed back in on itself in a big crunch before the first atom could even blink. It was a 13.8 billion year long threading of a needle just so that being could emerge. As the universe cooled, chaos gave way to structure. Stars ignited celestial furnaces, cooking the elements of life in their bellies. Stars had to die so that you can exist. Then, 4.5 billion years ago, you get the Earth. It's a story of violent condensation, rocks the size of cities, slamming into each other, total, unadulterated carnage. But the Earth sorted itself out. It developed a core, a shield, and eventually the oceans. And then, the great mystery, in those oceans, chemistry became biology. It started at the hydrothermal vents, where alkaline fluids met acidic seawater to create a proton gradient, a natural battery. This was the chemiosmotic miracle. So, life didn't just happen. It harnessed a flow of power. Molecules like lipids self-organized into spheres, creating the first walls. For nearly 2 billion years, life remained single-celled. But then, a radical chemical covenant was struck. Endosymbiosis. One cell integrated another, creating the eukaryote. By internalizing a bacterium, the mitochondrial life gained a nuclear reactor's worth of energy. And that extra power is what allowed the chemistry to get big. It's the first instance of complex cooperation. Then you get the Cambrian explosion. Suddenly, you have the emergence of almost every major body plan. You have the first predators, which means you have to be able to see, to move, and to predict. You get the first vertebrates, fish that develop the spine, and that's the ancestor of your own back. Then, 375 million years ago, creatures like Tiktaalik decided the water wasn't enough. They wanted the land. To move from a buoyant, aquatic world into a world of gravity and air requires a total remapping of the nervous system. This is where the ancient brain solidifies. By the time you get to the early reptiles, you have the basal ganglia. It's the reptilian brain. It doesn't think. It manages territory and survival. Then the mammals appear. They develop the limbic system, the seat of emotion. Now, for the first time, the other matters. You have bonding and hierarchical structures based on belonging. This ancient survival instinct is the chassis of your soul. It's been screaming, "Stay alive," for eons. It's the mechanism that led us to build homes, villages, and countries, collective shells to keep the chaos at bay. But here's the tragic element. That same mechanism that makes you protect your family is the one that starts wars. When you define the in-group, you implicitly define the other. War is a misfiring of the instinct to protect the nest. Yet, we help those we love because we realize, I cannot survive without we. To sever that connection is to become inhuman. A pathological narcissist who has betrayed the 13.8 billion year old process that built you. Finally, we sprouted the prefrontal cortex. This crown allowed us to simulate. We stopped being purely reactive animals and became visionaries. We took the light of that original, perfectly timed Big Bang and we turned it into consciousness. And this is why I always say, clean your room. People think I'm being a harsh father figure. They couldn't be more wrong. Your brain is an entropy-fighting machine. If the universe went to the trouble of tuning itself to the trillionth of a degree just so you could have the hardware to perceive it, you have a moral obligation not to live in self-induced chaos. When your environment is a mess, your amygdala starts firing because it can't predict the world. Each piece of junk is an unsolved problem. When you clean your room, you are performing a microcosm of that original Big Bang. You are taking a chaotic state of nature and you are imposing logos upon it. You are saying, I will bring order to this small corner of existence. The universe took 13.8 billion years to build a mirror so it could look at itself. That mirror is you. You are a walking museum of every survival strategy that ever worked, from the chemical battery of the first cell to the mammal's heart. You are a force of order in a sea of increasing entropy. You have a dragon in your brain. You can either learn to ride it and build a civilization, or let it burn everything down. So, align yourself with that creative force. Stand up straight. Organize your life. Clean your room, because the universe is watching, and it's a lot later than you think.
By the way, this was Jordan Peterson answering a question about what he thinks about life. Thanks for watching.